On her very first day working for Sean Diddy Combs, Capricorn Clark says the music mogul stared her down and growled, "I should kill you." Back then, she was a bright-eyed assistant who thought she'd landed a dream job. Today, she's the witness prosecutors are calling the linchpin of a racketeering case that could rip apart one of hip-hop's biggest empires. And the story she's finally telling, from lie detector torture to a gun-waving showdown with Kid Cudi, might change the way the world sees Diddy forever. Day 1. A promise of violence. Capricorn Clark's first glimpse of Combs' power wasn't a mansion party or a chart-topping celebration. It was a threat. According to her sworn testimony, Diddy learned she had once freelanced for Suge Knight and erupted, warning that people who crossed him didn't live long. The message was crystal clear: loyalty or nothing. For Clark, that single moment framed every choice that followed, turning the bad boy offices into a place where one wrong move felt life-ending. But that was only the opening act. Inside the inner circle. From 2004 to 2012, Clark wore half a dozen titles: assistant, marketing director, fixer of all things. She arranged flights at 4 a.m., hustled props for surprise proposals, and shielded Cassie Ventura from tabloid photographers. The job meant private jets and red carpets, but also 4 a.m. phone calls that began with, "We have a problem," and ended with Clark smoothing over Diddy's latest outburst. Staffers, she claims, walked on eggshells, memorizing his moods the way sailors study waves in a storm. One misread could sink you. And then came the tests, the kind no resume can prepare you for. 5 days, 5 needles. Late 2004, a diamond bracelet vanished after a party. Clark says bodyguards hauled her to a half-renovated Manhattan office and introduced her to a chain-smoking polygraph operator. Fail the test, she was told, and she'd be sleeping in the East River. Over 5 days, she sat wired to electrodes, answering the same questions until her voice cracked. She passed every round. The bracelet was never found, yet the ordeal branded a permanent lesson on her psyche. Diddy's reach extended far beyond the studio walls. But jewelry wasn't the only thing Diddy thought someone had stolen. The Kid Cudi raid. Fast forward to December 22, 2011. Rumors swirled that Cassie and rapper Kid Cudi were secretly dating. At dawn, Clark says Diddy pounded on her door, pistol in hand, yelling, "We're going to Cudi's! He's dead!" She was shoved into an Escalade and, in a panic, texted Cudi's team, "Get out, now!" Minutes later, Combs allegedly burst into Cudi's Hollywood Hills home, brandishing the gun while Clark stood frozen in the foyer. Prosecutors argue that single night proves kidnapping, intimidation, and a pattern of violent obsession. Yet the fallout didn't hit immediately. Sometimes ruin takes its time. Fear as currency. Back in Los Angeles, Clark watched Cassie's bruises multiply. First, a swollen lip, then a limp that lasted weeks. Rumors suggest Combs kicked the singer during a jealous rage, while employees were ordered to mind your business. More disturbing were the daily rituals of control: phones confiscated, random room sweeps for contraband, and mandatory silence about what they'd seen. Clark later told the court she lived in a state of permanent adrenaline, convinced one mistake would end with a body bag. When terror becomes routine, escape can feel impossible, but every prison has a flaw. Fired, threatened, and gone. August 2012. Clark was abruptly dismissed. No severance, no explanation. She claims Diddy growled that she would never work again and ordered industry friends to blacklist her. The threat worked for a while. She pivoted to lower-profile projects, avoiding interviews and refusing to confirm rumors. But the legacy of what she'd witnessed kept gnawing. When Cassie filed her civil suit in 2023, Clark reached out to prosecutors, offering diaries, old emails, and finally, her voice. And that voice was about to echo through a federal courtroom. On the stand, May 27, 2025. In a packed Manhattan courtroom, Clark took a slow breath, adjusted her glasses, and called her former boss the devil. Over 5 hours, she painted an empire built on fear. Forced pills before flights, private shows where Cassie was allegedly trafficked. Staffers coached to lie if police appeared. Defense attorneys hammered at inconsistencies, hinting that disgruntled ex-employees were chasing book deals. Yet jurors sat rapt as Clark described watching Diddy rehearse excuses in a mirror. Just business, baby, all business. Still, one question lingered in every mind. What happens if the jury believes her? Reverberations beyond the verdict. Legal analysts say Clark's testimony could unlock a domino effect. If prosecutors prove racketeering, civil suits from other alleged victims are almost certain to follow. Music insiders whisper that investors are already distancing themselves. Brands once clamoring for a Diddy collab have quietly paused campaigns. Meanwhile, social media is ablaze with theories. Some fans insist Clark is a hero. Others claim she's part of a smear plot. Reports claim federal investigators are now re-examining 2 unsolved assaults from 2010 that match her timeline. But behind the headlines lies a deeper reckoning. A spotlight no one escapes. Capricorn Clark spent nearly a decade in Diddy's orbit, orbiting wealth few people can imagine and fear most can't fathom. By stepping forward, she's forcing the industry to confront the cost of silence and reminding viewers that glittering stages can cast the darkest shadows. Whether a jury convicts Sean Combs or not, the brutal anecdotes she spilled, polygraph torture, midnight raids, whispered threats, now live in public memory. And as more insiders weigh whether to stay quiet or speak up, one thing is certain. The truth, once shouted, doesn't fade to black when the credits roll. It keeps echoing, daring the rest of us to listen and decide what kind of story we want to believe next. The toll of silence. Years of enduring threats and witnessing abuse took a profound toll on Capricorn Clark. She revealed that the relentless stress led to health issues, including alopecia, causing significant hair loss. The constant fear and pressure to remain silent created an environment where speaking out felt impossible. Despite the personal cost, Clark continued to work under these conditions, highlighting the pervasive control Diddy allegedly exerted over his staff. But even the strongest facades eventually crack, breaking the chains. In 2016, Clark returned to work as Cassie Ventura's creative director, hoping for a fresh start. However, the patterns of control and intimidation persisted. It wasn't until Cassie filed her civil suit in 2023 that Clark found the courage to come forward. Her testimony has become a cornerstone in the case against Diddy, shedding light on years of alleged abuse and manipulation. By breaking her silence, Clark not only seeks justice for herself, but also aims to empower others who have suffered in silence. The orchestrated enterprise. Capricorn Clark's testimony paints a picture of a meticulously controlled environment where Diddy allegedly orchestrated a network of enablers to maintain his dominance. She described how staff members were expected to comply with his demands without question, creating a culture of fear and silence. Clark recounted instances where she was instructed to procure substances for Diddy and witnessed him directing others to facilitate encounters that prosecutors argue were non-consensual. This alleged systematic manipulation underscores the prosecution's claim of a long-standing criminal enterprise. But the implications of Clark's revelations extend beyond the courtroom. The industry's reckoning. As Clark's testimony unfolds, the music industry faces a moment of introspection. Her accounts have prompted discussions about the complicity of those who turned a blind eye to alleged abuses. Brands and collaborators are re-evaluating their associations, and there's a growing call for accountability and systemic change. Clark's courage in breaking her silence serves as a catalyst, challenging the industry to confront uncomfortable truths and prioritize the safety and dignity of all individuals within its sphere. The alleged break-in and assault. Capricorn Clark recounted a harrowing incident where Sean Diddy Combs allegedly broke into rapper Kid Cudi's home after discovering Cudi's relationship with Cassie Ventura. Clark testified that Combs, armed and enraged, forced her to accompany him to Cudi's residence. Upon arrival, Combs allegedly entered the home uninvited, while Clark remained outside, fearing for everyone's safety. She later contacted Ventura's mother, urging her to call the police due to the escalating situation. Emotional testimony and industry impact. During her testimony, Clark became visibly emotional, especially when describing the alleged assault on Cassie Ventura and the threats she herself faced. She expressed feelings of fear and helplessness, stating that Combs held significant power over her career. Clark's revelations have prompted discussions within the music industry about accountability and the treatment of employees, leading to increased scrutiny of industry practices and calls for systemic change. The alleged kidnapping incident. In December 2011, Capricorn Clark testified that Sean Diddy Combs arrived at her home, visibly enraged and armed, demanding she accompany him to confront rapper Kid Cudi over his relationship with Cassie Ventura. Clark stated that Combs forced her into a vehicle at gunpoint, declaring, "We're going to kill him." Upon reaching Cudi's residence, Combs and a security aide entered the home while Clark remained in the car, fearing for everyone's safety. She contacted Ventura, urging her to intervene. Clark recounted that after the incident, Combs threatened her, stating he would not release her until she and Ventura convinced Cudi that Combs was not involved in the break-in. This testimony underscores the prosecution's portrayal of Combs' alleged pattern of intimidation and control. This is Mr. Holly News, where the stories are deeper, the drama is real, and the truth always finds the spotlight. If you're hooked on the hidden lives behind Hollywood's golden curtain, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because trust me, the next exclusive is always closer than you think. Until then, stay curious, stay bold, and keep watching.